It's go time, and round 23 team lists are ready to fire. Now, tough week last week. Some massive scores going around. Also, some injuries, some issues to look at too. Payne Haas is the big one. So, we'll look at the Broncos team. And as we go through, I'm going to talk about each option at the middle position. We will do a deeper analysis as well in buy, hold, sell too. But the big question here is who do you go for Payne Haas? Is it Tarpanay? Is it Paddy Carrigan? Is it, Isaiah Yeo? If you don't have him, do you save up and have a shot at a cheaper Connor Watson, or do you just give up on the middle position altogether? They're all options. We'll talk about them today. So let's get right into these team lists here. So first up, Storm and the Bunnies playing in this one. For the Bunnies, Jai Gray, Fletcher Myers, Tane Milne, Richie Kenner, Jacob Gagai, Jack Whiten, and Cody Walker. All right. So Cody Walker's back. That means a bit of a drop to Jack Whiten's base stats, but it's a good thing for South Sydney's attack in general. So it's a good piece of news for Jack Whiten's upside and attacking plays. So as a Whiten owner, I'm not super fussed about that. Jai Gray came out, popped out a massive score last week. This is a tough matchup though, right? So for Jai Gray, it's the Melbourne Storm. Storm, they got beat up a bit by the Dragons last week, but they're still a strong defensive outfit. So I'm not super confident in just jumping right in on Jai Gray. If you have a loophole, not a bad shout. And I thought this might be the case, by the way. Titans on top. He went off and got that strapping done and scored terribly last week, and now he's injured. So I might look at selling him as well. But we'll have a look at that in a sec. Let's go through the Bunnies first, then I can get really sad. So Jai Gray, if you've got a loophole option and you've got 4 wing fullbacks, with Tedesco, you probably don't have that loophole option, but Jai Gray is still one I would consider a loopholer that we like to start as maybe a 3rd wing fullback. But if you're stuck with him this week, then I wouldn't stress the other wing fullbacks and I'd just go for it. Jump in with Jai Gray, you're in a good spot. For the forward pack here, Davey Moale, Damien Cook, Kepi, Murray, Cheekam, Kolomatangi. So Host is out 2 to 4 weeks, which means Cheekam gets a bit of a run. As Bergs points out, Keon keeps the lock roll going. Yeah, he's been feasting in that role for South Sydney. So it looks like he's going to keep that going. The minutes were a bit lower last week, so it was only a sort of 55-minute performance for him, which I'm not targeting Kolomatangi as a buy, personally. I just think that 55 minutes, the fact they've got Murray back, the fact they lost that game, and it's not going to be a finals push, all of it says to me that there's a few reasons to be concerned. You also throw in the fact that they lost Host, so a bit more edge depth is gone. And you go down the list here. Yeah, Marmazelis is back, Duncan, Burgess, Shakai Mitchell. So Duncan can play on the edge, but Duncan is traditionally more of a middle, and they might want to see what they have in him as a lock forward as well. So there's just a few things here that stop me from jumping onto Damien Cook, Kolomatangi, even Cam Murray from this team. I'm just thinking avoid South Sydney altogether. And that's not to say, we talked about this a while ago. So Damien Cook is the highest scoring hooker. And I've always said that. But the risk here is that over the next sort of 5 weeks of footy, this could get messed around with. There could be issues here because they are well and truly out of the finals race, in my view. So that's what to look at there. Marmazelis is back. That's very bad news for Damien Cook. You've got Cheekam, who is theoretically the cover for centre. So that's worth shouting out. But other than that, I think that's South Sydney pretty well covered. I'll just answer a few questions here, particularly on South Sydney. So let's see. Anyone got any good South questions? It's all about Katoa. Stop teasing me, guys. Like getting the lock roll going. White and Iro or Tungo start too. So I'm just trying to think about fixtures. The Sharks, I can't remember who they're versing this week. But Whiten, this is not a bad matchup. I think he's pretty solid to start. I think Tungo you have to start because he's up against Parramatta and they won last week, but they haven't been a defensive juggernaut. So I think start Tungo, and I'm leaning towards Whiten, but we'll have a look at Iro as well. And then some bad effort plays in the middle there. So you're talking about Trent Loiero at 2nd row. He's not a long-term option at the 2nd row spot for the Storm. So that's easy. Aussie Frost King, good to see you, mate. So this guy here, Des Hasler's magic touch. Des Hasler's touch. The Des Hasler touch. I'm trying to think of the exact team name. Extended your lead, mate. So from number 1 by a little bit to number 1 by about 150 points or something like that. So 80 points in 2nd, but big gap there. So that's fantastic. Cook for 80. This week, I think yes, but I am certain there'll be some games where he doesn't play it on the stretch home. So keep that in mind. It could be this week, could be next week, whatever it is. Nass at lock, yeah, that's interesting. It's probably the wrong time of year, but if you needed to cash out at that price, here's a high upside option. What happened to Katoa? So Katoa picked up a knee injury, went off for about 25 minutes last game, came back with it heavily strapped on, and it doesn't look super promising. Is there any news here on how long it's going to be? So Eli Katoa, yeah, they haven't mentioned too much. He came back and played, right? So my view is it's probably not going to be super severe, but it definitely could be. So I'll keep an eye on that. Obviously, I'm a Katoa owner, so I'll dig up some news and go into that. It'll be in buy, hold, sell, particularly in the hold or sell section there. And then love you too, Geography Greg, the GOAT. The man doesn't take a break. I love it. No, Eli means I'm playing Howarth on an edge roll. Is that fine? I think for 1 week, you're okay there. Howarth is pretty solid. This is a good matchup. He should score a try in this one, theoretically. So, yeah. Sharks have Titans. So the Titans have been pretty awesome lately, but I would still back Howarth there. That's really tricky. I'm probably leaning towards Tungo and then one of Whiten or Iro. Probably, if you can loophole, that's ideal. If not, choose between Whiten and Iro. I'd probably lean towards Whiten, but it's anyone's call. Then we'll talk about who to bring in for Katoa as well. Start Talangi or Sam Hughes, or probably Sam Hughes. I think Talangi might struggle against the Eels. And then, 91 from second place. There we go. So massive lead in first place there. Far out, my ass hurts this year. It's been a tough one. It's been a tough year, 100%. And then does Blore get 80 now that Katoa's out? You'd think so, but I know who they got on the bench. Theoretically, he should. Yeah, he should definitely, but you never know. All right, let's keep rolling through here. So on the Storm side of the ball, why am I appearing red? What is this? I'm not red. I'm not sunburnt. What's going on? We'll turn the light up. How about that? You get to see behind the scenes. Wow, so bright. Okay, so for the Storm, we got Pappenhausen, Warbrick, Howarth, Meany, Anderson, Munster, and Hughes. So pretty clean back line. I'd be pretty comfortable starting any of these players this week. If you have them, I wouldn't be targeting them as buys, really anyone in this back line. But if you have any of these guys, start them. I think South Sydney are a team that can leak some points, especially on these edges. And these players should all do decently. I own Pappenhausen in a draft league. That's the only place where I really own much of the Storm backline. And Hughes, my classic team, obviously. But with Pappenhausen, I'll start him again this week, even though he scored the 7 last week. I think he'll do all right. Start Pappenhausen is my view. Hughes should keep on rolling. He has some big games in him. Cam Munster will be good. Howarth should be solid enough in this one as well. And then for the forward pack here, we got Kamika. I know I pronounced that wrong last week, so I'm just trying to nail it. Harry Grant, Josh King, Sean Blore, Trent Loera, and we've got Nelson Solomona, Wishart, Vailepu, Lewis, and McDonald on the bench. So, for the forward pack, Harry Grant back to some form. I'm not targeting him as a buy option necessarily, just because, I don't know, like he scored 2 tries and got 80 points, right? So he's going to score 2 tries every week? Probably not. And they were pretty fortunate tries as well. So I wouldn't be buying Harry Grant, but I'm pretty happy. If you have him, stick with him, keep rolling with him. He'll be good, but not necessarily a target. And like you said, the pod paid you right back. You had Damien Cook as well, so you're in a great spot. Then, rest of the Jock Wallace in my draft league. This scumbag, the commissioner of our league. So, mate, I'll be running Sharp as a loophole up against the Tigers. He's a great shout this week. And by the way, guys, actually, if you're in a draft league and Sharp is on the waivers versus the Tigers this week, I love him as a loophole option. So I'm a big fan. I'll answer you quickly, Jacob. So who should you buy for Haas and should you keep? So that's so hard to say without seeing your team. Yo is the best option. Carrigan should be a solid option as well. And then you can go to guys like Tarpanay around that price too. But I'm targeting one of those sorts of guys. Play Howarth or Iro. I'll probably target Iro for the safety. He's a really safe option, but you can go Howarth for the upside as well. All right, so, and how long is Eli Katoa out for? I need to find out. So he went off and then came back on, which makes me think it's going to be a really short-term rest. The issue is that they are in a pretty good spot on the ladder. So if they are looking good on the run home, they might not give him a run in round 27 as well. Like, it's looking like I'm probably going to sell him because he wasn't that elite of a keeper either. So I'll be considering selling Katoa and Haas this week and getting 2 big options in. All right, yeah, for Nelson Solomon too, a couple of you guys asked about him. I'm not a big fan of buying a player like this right now. So if you needed a player at that price, he's one of the good ones at that price. But I wouldn't force a trade to Nelson Solomon because I don't think he's going to be a reliable full-time keeper for you. That's the key there. And then can the Broncos make the finals if they win all their games? I think it might not even be mathematically possible. It's basically impossible for them. So they're in a tough spot. But they do have the bye coming up. So I wouldn't. That's where I'm looking at this and going, all right, they're probably not going to make the finals. They have the bye coming up. I can't really bring myself to buy Paddy Carrigan with that bye coming up and with them not making the finals and all that sort of thing. I just reckon it's probably not going to be the option. But yeah, exactly. They're out. Simple as that. That's a short way to say it. And out of fish. Yeah, there we go. Yeah. So I think there was a few results later in the weekend. If they went their way, might have helped. But yeah, it's locked out. So let's keep rolling through here. We've got the next game. We've got the Titans and the Sharkies. And for the Titans and the Sharkies, we'll go through the Titans first here. So Keeney at fullback. We've got Cam Pereira, Kelly, Sami, and Fafita. Backline there. Jaden Campbell, Kieran Foran of the halves. Now, when we're looking at Keeney here, Keeney becomes a very different option now. So I'm looking at Keeney, and it sounds like he's locked down that spot. It sounds like I'm hearing sort of, a few things here and there that he may have locked down that fullback spot, and AJ Brimson may come back in a different position. If that's a gamble you want to take, it's a tough one to take with Brimson an 18th man, but this is an early game in the round. So if you trade out someone who plays, as long as it's not this game before, basically, then you can pretty much take a shot at Keeney. So if you need a wing fullback, yeah, here we go. I want to risk it on Keeney, Aussie Frost King. Yeah, look, if you want to wing fullback, he's a guy who's been absolutely getting it done. Cronulla are not a defensive juggernaut. As much as they did shut down South last week, it was without Cody Walker, without Latrell Mitchell, and Jai Gray absolutely tore him to shreds. So Keeney should be pretty good in this game. He's about 650K. I'm actually pretty into the idea of getting Keeney, and I might even do that for my team myself. So keep an eye on that. We'll see. We'll see how we're looking. I'm undecided. I might wait and see how Jai Gray scores and put him in the loophole spot. And then if he scores poorly, I'll bring in Keeney. If he scores well, maybe not. But Keeney's a really good option. Jaden Campbell scored that 35 last week. If you have him, don't stress it. He's still going to be fine. But at the same time, I wouldn't be targeting him as a buy option right now. I think just the injury risk is still there. I'm saying that after saying Keeney, but Campbell, the difference with Campbell is people who got Campbell have enjoyed the win of that. So they've had massive scores already. So, if you get Campbell after everyone else, you just cement yourself behind them. Whereas Keeney is a genuine pod. And John Reyes is a good one. John, I hope you're the same John O'Neill that's going to have an article featured on our website very soon as well, by the way. But John, yeah, I do have the Keeney curse. That's true. That's true. Yeah. If I bring him in, he might go to shit. That's a tough one. And yeah, Keeney seems great. If you don't have Ponga already, it's wasted. Yeah, absolutely. So if you don't have Ponga, I've already got Ponga, right? But if you don't have Ponga, then he versus the Tigers this week, must watch footy, must have sort of option there. He'll absolutely kill it. So yeah, for the rest of the team here, I'm not touching the rest of this. Jojo Fafita was the second highest scorer last week. Don't react. Don't go and buy him. He could go well in a draft league, for example, but I wouldn't target him. Then for the forward pack here, Fodawaker, Verrills, Clark, Fafita, Haas, Randall, Nobo Firma, Isaac Liu, Jamin Jolliffe, Josiah Pahulu, and Keenan Palacia. And then, yeah, wow, no Bo Firma. What's the deal with Bo? Okay, just one change. Cleese Haas replacing Bo Firma, who suffered a bruised kidney in the win over the Broncos. A bruised kidney for Bo Firma. Wow. I got to say, when he scored 69 points, I was getting a lot of DMs from people. Because I was saying, oh, don't buy him. He's not reliable, whatever. I'm now feeling a little bit validated. Not that this is what I was predicting at all. But, yeah, sore rib, bruised kidney. I reckon he'll be back in a week. He's been killing it, man. Like, Bo Firma's been absolutely killing it. So if you have Bo Firma, I would stick with him and just play someone else in that spot instead, as long as you do have the depth. But yeah, he's been on fire. I wouldn't be buying Cleese or anything like that. So yeah, bruised kidney. What phase are you in, mate? Good name. Captain Cleary or Ponga is a big one. So Cleary's really hard to not captain right now. But if you want the big upside play, Ponga could be that option as well. So he's the kind of guy who can pop off huge. Yeah, Bunnies, you mentioned it as well. Captain Ponga, Matt, you're mentioning Pong. It could be the option. Now, my official advice is to Captain Cleary. He's super safe. He's that guy up against Parramatta as well. He enjoys that matchup and usually does pretty well. Although, I'm going to raise one thing. There was a season a couple of years ago where Cleary came into the Parramatta game, got himself, I think, sent off in that game and scored like 10 fantasy points. So if you think that's going to happen again, you could be making a pod move and going with Ponga instead. I'm just going to lay out all the information. Cleary is the safer option, but Ponga could absolutely tear up. Let's talk about Ponga more. Yeah, sorry, mate. Sorry. Both of them is great, but the big thing is he averaged 50 one year and he scored 11 tries that year. So I look at him and I think to average 50, he has to score so many tries. And I'm a bit more now, but I wasn't that much of a Titans believer. But I'll tell you what, they're putting together performances, and I'm sort of becoming a believer as we speak. So moving different. And moved heaven and earth to get Cleary after your advice. And damn, it did not disappoint. That's great, man. Good to see. Good to see. Anyone but Cleary is a pod move, exactly right. I considered Haas again last week and didn't do it, luckily. But that would have been a really bad option. Titans so lucky we played the Panthers last round. Ooh, not ideal. All right, so for the forward pack here, Dave Fafita has been a bit frustrating. He's been playing all right footy, right? Like, he's not playing bad footy, but there's a lot of times where he's getting the ball in an advantageous position and they're in a 3-on-3, it's after a break or whatever it is, and he's just shoveling the ball onto Brian Kelly, who is racking up all the fantasy points. So I'm not viewing Dave Fafita as any sort of captain option right now. He could pop off in this game. Nakora and Wilton can both miss some tackles, but just the intent hasn't really been there in the fantasy scoring areas. So not super hyped on him. Chris Randall saved his score with some big attacking plays right at the end of the game when he was playing at hooker. So again, I'm not convinced on him, but he keeps producing these attacking plays. So as long as he keeps doing that, happy days. For the Sharkies, we got Kennedy, Katoa, Ramian, Iro, Stone Street, Atkinson, and Brayley, and then Royce Hunt, McInnes at hooker, Kafusi, Nakora, Wilton, Jack Williams. And down the list here, Jaden Burrell gets another run, Talakai, Rudolph, and Hazleton. And just on the Sharks news here, so Trindle to the hamstring injury sees Blake Brayley move to 7, McInnes moving to hooker. Yeah, so we saw that hamstring issue for Trindle last week. So last week, Trindle came off towards the end of the game. And he had some hamstring awareness is what they were calling it. So, it shouldn't be a long-term thing. I'd say my guess is probably 2 weeks, something like that. But I don't know. The Sharks really need to win games, and Trindle is really important to them. What I will talk about here, though, and I haven't talked about Hosking yet, what I will talk about here is that as much as, it's not the right time of year for this kind of player, Dan Atkinson is a very good fantasy scorer when they line up like this. So he's not guaranteed to play the remainder of the season. Trindle and Hines should both be back before the end of the year. But if you have Atkinson in your team and you're upset about his score last week, because he scored really poorly last week, I'll tell you what, I'd be confident starting him this week, because last time they lined up like this, he scored 60 plus. So that's what I'll throw in there. For Cam McInnes, this doesn't really change Cam McInnes in my mind, because Beryl will come on, steal some minutes, and they don't like McInnes playing 80 minutes in this team. So I wouldn't be super excited about the move or anything like that. Nakora and Wilton, I think the weaker halves pairing, so now Brayley and Atkinson, it hurts Nakora in particular because he's a line running back rower. He needs to be fed those options. And as much as the Titans are a team that, they can get into a shootout, 100%, I'm a bit off Nakora, but at the same time, it's probably too luxurious to sell him. I think he should score all right this week, but I'm just not fully convinced with this roster. Then in the back line here, Kale Iro, we'll talk about him as well. Not a bad matchup. Bergs, if you're still here, who's Iro against? Is he going to be against Sammy or Kelly? I think so. Iro's on the left. I think Sami's on the right. So I think he's going to be up against Phil Sami. That's how I see it. So up against Sami, should do all right. Sami's a pretty physical guy. Iro just gets his work done, right? So I'm not super fussed about the matchup, but I'd be pretty confident starting Iro. Then for Sam Stonestreet, we said it before. I think this, again, the change in the halves, it weakens his position. So the reason I liked him last week was because there were going to be a lot of try scoring opportunities. I liked him more than Yongi, who was only playing one game, maybe 2 games. And I liked him more than Fletcher for the Bunnies, just because the Bunnies are sort of off it right now. But this change, it weakens his position. So, yeah, the whole Sharks backline is downgraded a little bit without Hines and without Trindle, is what I'll say there. Let's just hit some of these questions here too. So, Yo or Kiana Kolomatangi, I'm saying Yo 100%. And I actually have this choice to do this week. I just reckon there's too much risk with Kolomatangi that he could lose minutes or change roles or whatever it is, whereas Yo just does what Yo does, 100%. McInnes at 9. Look, if he plays 80 minutes at 9, it's great. Like he's been an absolute beast. Do you have an article to read about your analysis? Yeah, so I'll put something together. It's going to be on The Casual Athlete. I'll just put it in the chat. thecasualathlete.com.au. We're actually massively upgrading the website right now. So I'm going to have a lot more written content because I know like a lot of you guys love watching it. But some people, they want to read it on the train, whatever it is too, or, whatever you're doing. So yeah, I put the website into the chat there. Talk about Hosking, not yet, but we will talk about him. Good mid under 500K. Who's under 500K? Maybe Nelson Sofa Solomona, someone like that. But ideally, you don't want to be buying too many of those guys. Your glorious pod, mate, Jojo Fafita. I'll tell you what, if you got him as a pod, you're killing it. Sami quietly having a great season. Yeah, I sort of started to notice him when he dominated Parramatta in that game and did the Gutherino, and he's been killing it 100%. Kolomatangi or Barnett. Now Barnett has the buy in round 27. You could say Yo might get a rest in round 27 as well, but the buy is 100% guaranteed. I'd probably still. You probably have to go Kolomatangi. I'm leaning Barnett as the better scorer with a safer role. That's a really hard one. That's a really tricky one. I'm probably going to say Kolomatangi just because you're guaranteed the round 27 bye with Barnett. I think Barnett outscores Kolomatangi all the way to the end, but then Kolomatangi makes it up in round 27. Then let's keep rolling through. Yeah, Eli Katoa. It's a rough one. Cool, Valley. Just drop me an email, man. I actually just updated it to add New Zealand. But if you drop me an email, I'll put it in the chat there for fantasy championship rings. Yeah, let's put it in the chat there. So shoot me an email and I'll sort it out. Because I've shipped like 4 of them to New Zealand, these championship rings, man. So yeah, I'm fixing it up on the website to include it, but I've just been manually shipping them. So that's super easy. Guys, if you do want your championship rings, by the way, it's in the description of the video, I believe it is. So you can actually check out those championship rings there. They're $50 off right now. So it's a great deal at the moment. Then we'll keep rolling through here. Who else we got? Any other good questions? Trade questions, general trade questions we'll hit at the end, by the way, guys. And then I went for Yo. Good shout. And Ola Kawatu is one we're going to talk about at Manly as well. Okay. Man, I might just have to give you one, by the way. If you win, I'll just give you one. If you win it all, you deserve it. You just got to take me to Magic Round. No, I won't make you do that. But I'll meet you there. All right, let's keep rolling. Let's keep rolling through. So Parramatta and Penrith, and this is normally a great game of footy. Now, Parramatta aren't really doing too much right now. They're not really doing too much right now. So I still reckon they might G up for this game and, give it a shot and be competitive for 40 minutes. But I don't know. You can't safely tip them. That's the problem here. So for Parramatta, we'll go through this team. So Gutho had a massive game last week, top 10 score of the round. Jake Tungo, Will Penasini, Blaze Talangi, and then we've got Russell, and then we've got Brown and Arcee. Arcee's been taking all those kick meters. Now, Brown's been good still. He's been averaging about 60, 57, something like that, since Moses got hurt. So he's been going well. Been a good buy, but I think he's not a safe big score this week. So I wouldn't be shocked if he scores poorly in this one. But at the same time, he might also put the team on his shoulders and just absolutely kill it. It's very hard to predict with Parramatta. For the rest of the back line here, I would not be starting Jake Tungo. I have him. Some of you guys might have him as well, so definitely not starting him. I wouldn't be buying Gutho. They could do anything. He's got that knee issue. He might get a rest at some point. This is a good shout as well. When Sivo back, I need this as well. I was hoping we'd have it this week. I was hoping ideally we'd have it this week, but we don't. So, yeah, when is he back? I heard he was back this week, so maybe he's coming back through reserve grade or something. He might be on the extended bench. Let's just have a quick look at that. Yeah, no go for Micah Sivo. Is he? Yeah, no go for Micah Sivo. So maybe next week. He might not even come back into the team. Who knows? For the forward pack here, we got RCG, Hands, Greg, Lane, Cartwright, and Madison. Now, by the way, I skipped over it, but if you need to buy at that price point, Dylan Brown isn't a bad option. I don't think he kills it this week, but for the run home, he'll be really solid for you. So forward pack, RCG, Brendan Hands, Will Greg, Boomer Greg, and then we got Lane, Cartwright, Madison. Now, not inspiring scores from Madison in particular last week. Brendan Hands went well. I wouldn't read into either of those too much. So we got Lusick, Offengawi, Dury, and Kerr. Yeah, I think Madison's going to get the job done. So I reckon you stick with Maddo. Just keep him rolling. If you've got Lane or Cartwright, stick with them as well. Keep them rolling. Brandon Hands, yeah, like you said, Charlie, had a massive score last week when people needed him. Look, if you want to run him, he's cheap. He's probably not worth selling. So you can run him if you're desperate. Like, I don't hate it. Like, I think he should score about 35 is my prediction for him. And then you can go up above that or below that or whatever it is too. But I'd say about a 35. He might produce a 50 again, but you never know. Ponga buy 100%. Go get Ponga. Don't wait. It's too late. It's round 23. Just go and do it. Is Toa worth it? He's a nice little pod, actually. So a few people have gotten on him recently, but I think he's a nice pod. He should score a few tries in this one. Parramatta's wings have been pretty average, and yeah, he should be all right. And then because I have Watson, Crichton, and Teddy, I can replace the lower scorer. Okay, cool. Out of Casey, Plath, Blore with Fino. Probably, yeah, you could do a triple loophole there. That's easy. That's super easy. Just run that. I think Casey should go all right here. So, yeah, for Parramatta, I think we've talked about those guys pretty well. For Penrith, Dane Laurie comes back, so Yongi is out. Taruva, Tungo, McLean, and Toa, really all kind of interesting options here. So, Tungo, if you got Tungo, he got back into the winner's circle with a 50 last week. He had a try disallowed that was pretty dodgy, I thought. So he could have gotten a 60 very easily. And I think, again, this week, this is a good matchup for Isaac Tungo. And if I had him, I'd start him. Now, there is the chance that they go well and he doesn't score much, but there also is that chance that he scores 80 plus in this game. So I'd be running Tungo 100%. McLean is interesting. So he cracked out the 50. So he's gone sort of 30 and 50 so far with tries in both games. I trust him a little less than Tungo, if I'm being honest. And I know recent scoring hasn't agreed with that, but yeah, exactly what you're saying, Bergs, too. McLean against Penasini. It's less ideal, right? Because Penasini is a pretty solid matchup, but that is the edge with Penasini and Cartwright. So again, if you need to start McLean, start him for sure. I view him more in that loophole tier, whereas Tungo, I'm pretty comfortable starting this week. But yeah, more of a loophole option, McLean. I think try and see his score. Try and use those loopholes. I like him as an 18th man that you can sub in with one of those Roosters players who are on a bye. Now, for the forward pack here, Leota, Kenny, Smith, Sorensen, Martin, and Yo. And obviously last week, let's work through these guys. I'm not super keen on the 8, 9, 10. Sorensen scored terribly for me last week. 50 minutes out of nowhere. Super random. I guess they've got some guys who need some minutes off the bench, but I know that was pretty disappointing. So I don't really trust Sorensen. And again, he's another one that if I had unlimited trades, I'd sell him for sure. But I'm probably going to have to hold on to him. He probably sits in the 18th man spot. The question is, do I trust Sorensen more than I trust Samuel Afainu? And that's going to be what I have to decide this week. I'm probably leaning towards Sorensen personally over him. Liam Martin, if you need a guy under 500K, Liam Martin is a great option for the run home. He's not going to be super reliable, but he could score 50 odd every week, and he has attacking upside as well. So don't mind Martin. And then, interesting question, Martin or Tungo for Fino? As in you're selling Fino and buying Martin or Tungo? I'd probably lean towards Tungo just because it gives you a bit more flexibility and you probably already have a few back rowers. Yo or Carrigan. So let's talk about Yo here now because Yo's in the 13 jersey, super easy. He might get a rest at some point, maybe, but I don't think it's a certainty. It looks likely. Carrigan has the bye though. That's a certainty. So the worst case scenario for Yo is the exact same scenario as what Carrigan has. So I'm going Yo over Carrigan 100%. Again, I've got that choice myself. I'm leaning towards Yo really strongly. And yeah, Mav Gaia, edge back row spot. If they have an injury in the back line, Mav Gaia might slide into those spots instead. But yeah, without any injuries, it means that he eats those back row spots. And then hop back on Plath. Nah. He had the try. He had a try to get to 56. I don't like it. The scoring profile is not ideal. He's like a 45 average guy, I reckon, for the run home. And that relies on a few attacking plays. And then here's a good shout here. So Tarpane over Yo, no chance for a rest. Honestly, that's a fair bit of logic. I don't love Tarpane's 40 to 45 scores that he puts up, but absolutely love the logic here. He shouldn't get a rest 100%. All right, let's keep rolling through. So we got the Saturday footy, 3 p.m. Love a 3 p.m. game, by the way. This should be a good one too. So Raiders and the Seagulls. For the Raiders, KO Weeks, Rapana, Tomoko, Chris, Savage, and then we got Strange and Fogarty. So Strange comes back in. That is great news for Fogarty, 100%. It's good news for Canberra's attack too. Last week, Strange was sitting in the 18th man spot. So he's back. He's looking good. If you have Fogarty, I wouldn't stress it at all. If you don't have Fogarty, he's still a buy option. I think when he's next to Strange, that's the big booster, right? Whereas Cook, who is sitting on the bench in 14, I don't know. I don't think, does Cook come on at hooker? Does Cook come on in the halves? I think just the way it's set up, I think theoretically Cook probably comes on at hooker, right? Because Fogarty and Strange, they're not playing hooker. I think Fogarty has played a game or two at hooker before, and it wasn't great. But yeah, no, I wouldn't be worried too much about it. So Fogarty's a guy you can target 100%. I might get Fogarty this week. If I can afford Haas and Katoa out for Yo and Fogarty, I might do that. We'll have a look at it. We'll see. And for Katoa's timelines, I'll find out for you guys before buy, hold, sell. Now, the rest of the Raiders team, the rest of the back line, if you've got KO Weeks, he's doing all right. But I still think he's not a reliable week-to-week starter. But this week, if you're struggling at wing fullback and you're low on trades and you have Tedesco, or maybe Joey Manu or Dom Young or whatever it is, then I don't mind the idea of starting KO Weeks this week. All right, for the forward pack here, Papali'i, Starling, Tarpane. We got Young, Whitehead, and Smithies. There's not too much to talk about here. So Hosking is out. He's redone that shoulder issue that he had before. It doesn't change too much for the starting team. And to be honest, we weren't buying Hosking anyway with the role he had. So for this team, Starling, it's probably good news that Levi's off the bench. Not amazing news because, Cook could still steal some minutes there. Tarpane doesn't really change his life, these injuries. He's a solid option. He's not who I'm going for. I'd rather just go for the big upside of Yo. But if you want Tarpane, I don't mind that shout. Then Hudson Young at a quieter game. I still don't mind him as a pod. He's a very up and down kind of scorer, but he should be all right in this game. Smithies, Whitehead, we're not touching those guys. I had some questions here too. Fogarty or Carrigan? I'm leaning towards Fogarty just because Carrigan has the bye. That's the big thing. My halves are Cleary and Fogarty. Great, stick with it. Luke Brooks or Aiden Caesar in draft this week. Caesar has the Knights. It's not a bad matchup. I'm leaning towards Caesar, but it's a total coin toss. And then Carrigan seems like such a good buy, but has the buy. The buy next week is such a problem. Yeah, I agree. I'm not doing it, but you can do it. Carrigan's a good shout. I'm just not jumping on. Not worried about Yo at 27. Carrigan should average 50. No Haas. Yeah, I would say Carrigan averages 60 without Haas. You said that. Yeah. Next one. Yeah, I think he averages about 60, but Yo averages about 65, and Carrigan has the buy 100%. Yo has a buy. Yo might get arrested at a worse time, but I'm still willing to take a gamble on Yo. Every time I get Garrick, he gets injured. I sell him, he racks up a top 10 score of the week. That is the way. You just got to stick with Ruben Garrick. Thoughts on Smithies? He looks like he's all good for this one. Thoughts on Sami? Please answer. Sami is a massive pod. It's not a guy that I'm jumping on, but he is a super pod. So if you want to do it, go and do it. I'm going to put out a pods article later as well. So if you follow us on Instagram, I'll post all those articles there too. But yeah, Sammy's in one of the pods articles actually that one of the guys wrote. So we had a few people sending in articles this week. We are actually growing, what we're doing as well next year too. So if you fancy yourself a fantasy writer, you want to do a bit of, bit on the side, bit of fantasy write-up sort of stuff, just drop me an email. I'll drop the email into the chat here. So it's daniel@thecasualathlete.com.au. Shoot me your deets through, and we can talk about that as well. Then, got Yo, McInnes, and Watson. Need a mid for Haas. Tarpanay is all right. Yeah, he's a good option for you with that set. So I don't mind that at all. Thoughts on Keon? I don't love the minutes. I don't love the role security. And I think South Sydney are bad out of finals. So I'm not in on Keon Koloamatangi, but he is a very solid scorer. So if you want to do it, go and do it. I just think there's a bit of risk in it. Who would you target for 800K in any role? Yo, we'll talk about them by hold sell, but they're the top guys, right? Like if you look at the stat center, you can see them all ranked based on price, and those top guys are all pretty good. And then let's keep rolling through. Tarpanay or Ponga for Haas. Probably Ponga. I think Ponga has more upside than Tarpanay. That's where I'm going. Do you get paid for writing? Not really. So maybe it's a new thing we're doing, building out the blog, but it's not a big money operation, obviously. So it might evolve into that. It's going to be more of a if you write stuff that gets a lot of views and all that, then maybe. But it's not a big money thing. So if you just want money, that's probably not the go. One trade left going Haas for Tani Milton. You're a mad dog. Savage. Sharp to Ponga, my only one trade. Yeah, good shout. Am I playing Gray this week? I'm probably going to loophole Gray, but I think I'll play. Got to do it for the love. Exactly right. Yeah, it's not a big money field. So, yeah. Then let's keep rolling through here. So for Manly, we've got Tommy Turbo, Jason Saab, Tommy Talau, Garrick, Hopewadi, Brooks, and Trey Evans. I'll talk about this pretty quickly because Turbo is a big pod that you can jump onto if you want to. I'm not a big Turbo fan for fantasy. I prefer Ponga. I would almost prefer Keeney as well, actually. But if you have Ponga already and you're looking at getting Keeney, just make sure that trade is reversible, and then you can swap it to Turbo if Brimson came in or whatever it is, right? But yeah, I'm not a big fan of Turbo personally. I just think he has to play so transcendently well to score well in fantasy that you're going to get all these lower scores. So you're going to get these 35s and 40s and all that. But yeah, exactly right, Vinny. Super coach only, because he gets a lot of those try assists. He has a lot of line break assists, all that kind of thing. And they stack up in super coach, but it's not a big fantasy play. So I'm not into Turbo. Ruben Garrick, though, I think is a great option at the price he's at in particular. He's got that dual position. So I'm not saying buy Garrick because there is that risk. But at the same time, I think he's a great option. If you've got him, stick with him, keep riding that wave. And if you need a player at that price point, I don't mind Garrick at all. But I think you'd rather stretch to a guy like Ponga instead. Then we got Brooks and DCE. DCE is a mega pod. Now, DCE has some low games in him. He can score 30, 35 points here and there. But he also has these massive games in him where he can go, 100 plus, right? So we saw last year, he finished the year one of the better scorers in the last few weeks. And if you want a pod that can go nuclear, DCE is a great option. I'm probably not going to target DCE. Maybe I'll ponder it through the week. But he is a pod that can go absolutely nuclear and can just absolutely kill it for you, especially with Olakau'atu back in the team as well. Now, for the forward pack here, we got Paseka, Croker, Nathan Brown, Olakau'atu, Lawton, and Jake Trbojevic. Olakau'atu is a fine option to look at too. So if you want a back rower for this week, I'm actually going to consider Olakau'atu. I don't mind the look of him at all. I might jump on Olakau'atu, actually. We'll see how the money works out. Yo is my top priority, and then I might look at a guy like Fogarty, DC, Olakau'atu, one of these sorts of players, and just see who works out. So Olakau'atu is a good shout if you need a back rower. I like him a lot. I think he could be one of the best, actually, back rowers for run home. Then bench here is nothing super interesting to write home about. Any questions here on Manly? Who would you trade in for Katoa? Probably Olakau'atu. forced to hold Olo with the other injuries. Hope he goes big this week. I think he should go well for the run home. Yeah, 100%. All right, Talau, DWZ, or Jojo Feeder in draft. Just look at the matchups. So whoever's got the better matchup, that's going to be the key there. Carrigan or Watson for Haas. Depends when you want the buy. Do you want to buy this week or do you want to buy next week? Really depends on your roster. If you have a lot of Roosters already, then probably Carrigan. But if you have a lot of Broncos, then probably Watson. Burbo looks like he's bench spot now, 100%. Yeah, he is. And that means Lawton might get big minutes, but might not. Angus Taponga. Angus been dropping. No, I wouldn't say Angus. I think keep Angus Crichton 100%. Then I'm trading in Pod for head-to-head. Fog, DC, or McInnes. Who scores better this week, do you reckon? I'm leaning towards Fogarty. So I think Fogarty's the best of that group. DC has the highest upside of that group. And I'm not into McInnes at all. Watson or Adam Fennell-Blake. That's tough. I mean, this week, probably Fennell-Blake, but he has that buy in round 27. So Watson next week is probably a better option. When you're taking unrelated trade questions, so right at the end, we'll do the trade questions. So it's probably going to be in about 20 minutes, I would say, for trade cues. Olakuatu or Carrigan? Olakuatu, no buys. Haas to Olakuatu, yes, I like it. Angus Taponga, nah, not into it. Who should I get for that price? I have no idea. Dylan Brown's around that price, probably him. Who for Haas? Last trade, any position, can wait a week, have most guns already. We'll talk about it in buy, hold, sell. I'll go through them in buy, hold, sell. Promise, the buy, hold, sell, I'll go through all the actual best options, guys, and like break them down, and you can just pick from that list. That's the better play. This video, by the way, to give you guys context, I do this video, so I don't really do a lot of fantasy on Monday, and I'll do this video, just it's a live reaction. I don't pre-look at the team list or anything like that. And then I do my analysis after this and then start doing buy, hold, sell, all that too. So yeah, first reaction, I'll give you a proper answer in buy, hold, sell. For the rest of the team, let's keep rolling through. Let's keep rolling through. So we're going to go into the Cowboys and the Broncos next. So this is a cracking game, and I always love this game of footy. It's always a good one. Probably worth answering quickly. For you, Aiden, Payne Haas is out probably for the year, so got to sell him. But let's go through the Cowboys here. Scotty Drinkwater, Kyle Fell, Val Holmes. We've got Vailea, Talangi. We've got Dearden and Townsend. The week to buy Cowboys players was last week. It was definitely last week. So we talked a lot about Drinkwater as a nice option last week. Talked a lot about Val Holmes as a great option last week as well. Didn't really go into the rest of the team, but those two popped off. They both scored about 70 points. So they're in a great position. Now, what do we do with them this week? They got to buy in 2 weeks' time, right? So I think now it's too late. So you were buying them for that Tigers matchup. This Broncos matchup isn't bad either, but the Tigers matchup is what you were targeting. So I wouldn't necessarily buy any of these guys. I think if you're desperate, if you're really desperate, you could go and buy Val Holmes or Scott Drinkwater. But the buy coming up really soon now makes that a bit less attractive. For the forward pack here, McLean, Robson, McIntyre, Lukey, Nanai, and Cotter. If you are flush with trades, you can sell Robson if you want to. He's been kind of average, but I think he's been fine. For Lukey and Nanai, they're not keepers. So if you have them, I'd probably sell them. And then, Cotter. If you got Cotter, keep Cotter. He's going well. That's the easy play there. For the bench here, is anything noteworthy? Fenufuaki's on the bench. It's probably the only thing worth talking about there. I'll just quickly hit some of these questions here as well before we keep rolling through. So Sua or Olakuatu is totally dependent on whether you think the Seagulls or the Dragons will do better for the run home. I'm leaning towards Olakuatu, but we talked about Sua in the back row rankings, and I actually really like Sua as well. He's got that big attacking play capability. So as Kane, do we know how long Haas is? We talked about that. Wing fullback video. I did an article instead, but I'll probably make a video as well because I think this week is the week where everyone's going to look at it. So I'll record a wing fullback video, just something light, where I'm just talking about those top wing fullback options and who I like the most. Because at this point of the year, it's all about fixtures, right? So we're getting into that last, 23, 24, 25, 5 rounds, right? So I should know that off by heart, but here we are. Carrigan alarm bells, I think he'll go well. I think he'll go well. He should be solid. Thoughts on Holmes, maybe to Dragons and Hammer back to the Cowboys. I think Hamaso's really enjoying playing fullback. That's the problem there. Unless they view Drinkwater as a half to play next to Dearden. Just the problem is they don't really have a genuine 7. But if they ran Drinkwater and Dearden as their halves, they could go Hammer to fullback. It is a pure attacking spine at that point. Not a lot of defense is going to be played. Drinkwater in the front line. He's such a great attacking player, but just defensively, I don't know how he'd go. This may sound silly, but do you sometimes take into consideration team dynamics around players, thinking of Broncos and Walters? Yeah, we definitely look at that. So a team who's fighting for a final spot or on the rise, we really like that. A team who falls out of the finals, we're less excited about. So, for the Broncos, I don't know, Walsh, for example, is carrying a few issues and he could get a rest at some point, or Adam Reynolds isn't that appetizing. If they won a few games in a row, I would be talking about Adam Reynolds right now as a cheap option. But yeah, I definitely want to take that into account 100%. Is it worth waiting a week to trade Haas to get Watson? It depends on your team. If you can make that move and you can cover it this week, then yeah, I don't mind that at all. I'm 37th overall in Bundy Mixer, and well, mate, 167 in Classic. You're killing it. The best fantasy player in the world. Crushing it. Berlin or Loero, I actually don't know who Berlin is. Then sell 2 of Madison, Talangi, Sorensen, Fainu. Probably Talangi and Fainu, I think. I think Sorensen will bounce back and have a good score this week. Dylan Walker, sell. Yes, absolutely. Only 1 week out, most likely, but I still reckon he's not a full-blown keeper, so I'd sell him. Galvin Ponga is a great trade. I made that trade last week, and happy with it. I needed the wing fullback. He's going to kill it this week. The block of cheese, Fainu or Talangi. Then Johnson, because we can't buy him next year. I don't mind that as well. We'll talk about Sean Johnson when we get to the Wars. Didn't Drinkwater play 7 coming through the grades? Yeah, he was a half in his junior years. So that's why I'm talking about it, right? But the issue is you have 2 different kinds of halves, right? Just to boil it down. So you've got your sort of steering 7 and more playmaking 6. So that's where like Adam Reynolds and Cody Walker were the perfect halves pairing. Or Jerome Luai and Nathan Cleary, an awesome halves pairing. That's where Chad Townsend, he doesn't do anything super flashy in the game, but he's that steering 7 that allows Dearden to play more as a ball running 6. So Drinkwater would have to take that role over, which he could probably do, right? He's a pretty talented guy. It's just keen to see how they lay it out. I don't mind it. Like, if they did that, it'd be pretty exciting to watch. Dom Young to Philip Sami, is that sideways? I wouldn't make that trade, but it has big upside. So you can go and do it if you want to. Play Fainu or Arpi. Probably Coruscant out of that too. Pick my marriage. I'm just going to tell you guys to watch more footy. That's it. Play Xbox together. Get 2 dogs. So that's the advice. That's the extent of it. Is Eli Katoa a sell or a hold? Probably a sell, but we'll keep an eye. I need to check out how long he's going to be out for. Val, Dylan Brown, Iro Asami, or Liam Martin to trade in. Probably. Ooh. I'm probably leaning towards Val and Dylan Brown. I don't like Val's buy, but so probably Dylan Brown is the best out of those. Pimp my divorce. That's what's going to be the result if I do that show. Guess the advice is going to suck. Now, Broncos, Reece Walsh, Karapani, Staggs, Mariner, Arthurs. And we got Rogers and Reynolds. We've got Jensen, Walters, Willison, Piakura, Ricky, Carrigan. Okay, there's not heaps to talk about for the Broncos. So Reece Walsh is the first one. I wouldn't be targeting him as a buy right now. So last week was a pretty good score, but it had 2 tries in it. Scoring isn't crazy good, so I'm not super keen on Walsh. He also has a buy during your head-to-head finals in the next couple of weeks. Rest of the backline I have no interest in. If you are desperate, like truly desperate for a cheap option, then Reynolds isn't the worst. He's not what I'm going after, but he isn't the worst option. For the forward pack here, you could make a case for Corey Jensen. You could absolutely make that case. So when they have guys out, Jensen absolutely kills it. He would be a big pod. The issue is he's very expensive. So I know Lockie, who does some articles for us, the casual athlete, he has been on Jensen quite a bit this year, and he absolutely killed it for him. So you could make a case for that. Piakura, Ricky, not interested. Willison, not interested. Carrigan should average about 60 for the run home, but has a bye next week. So I'm not that interested. But if you don't mind the bye next week and you can cover it, then Carrigan's not a bad option. And then for the bench here, Moses is a guy for the future. Hetherington, Saylor, and Tapau. Saylor on the bench is a bit concerning for the fitness of guys like Walsh and Reynolds and all that too. So this is sort of what I'm talking about, right? They're not playing for a final spot anymore. So if Walsh picks up any sort of injury, he'll just hop off for Saylor. So I'm not targeting any of these players, really. I'm going to keep rolling through because I think they're not super noteworthy teams to talk about. On just looking at the benches here. But yeah, so Dragons and the Dogs next. And this one should be a belter. I think it's already sold out, this game. Do we have any Doggies fans on the stream as well? Because Dogs have been something else right now, and they're fired up. Like, they've been on the bottom for a long time, so you love to see them making that rise. I'm probably rooting for the Dogs out of all the finals teams right now as well. So call me a Doggies fan now that Parramatta are out of the finals contention. Now, yeah, we got a few. Go the Dogs. The Doggies, up the Dogs. And we got up the Saints as well. Sorry, Dragons fans. I love the Dogs right now. All right, so for the Dragons, upset against the Storm last week, absolutely cracking game for them. They really bounced back after getting destroyed by Penrith, so that's good to see for the Dragons. Then we got Sloan, Lomax, Sully, Feeney, Tupolotu, Flanagan, and Hunt. Nothing I'm targeting here at all for fantasy. I'm going to keep rolling through. Lomax you could make a case for, but I don't think so. Then Molo, Little, DeBellin, Leilua, Sua, and Eisenhuth. The only fantasy relevant bits of this are probably Jaden Sua, who is a fringe keeper, back rower. He's an option if you think he's going to score tries and if you think the Dragons are going to go on a run down the stretch. I'm probably not going to be targeting him. I like Olakau'atu better. I think Olakau'atu has more attacking upside, but Sua's a great option as well. The other one, DeBellin, we could talk about here too. The minutes haven't been great. So if you have DeBellin, I don't trust him as a full-time starter. But this week, you might have to make it work if you have a lot of Roosters players. I'll quickly hit up the last few here. So, yeah, up the Saints. Come on, the Doggies. Dogs fans not impressed. Yeah, that was – it's a small group, right? Like, yeah, you can't paint everyone with the same brush, but they seem like scumbags, those guys. So that's pretty lame. Red V, fire up for the all right, Dragons fans are all coming through. We got a random Panthers fan. You guys have had enough. Get off the stream, right? I love everyone except the Panthers. That's my bias as a Para fan. Yeah, go the Dogs. Should I sell Jordan Ricky? I think absolutely you should. Titans will knock the Dogs out in the finals. Man, Titans made it as well. That's another team I'd love to see go. So I think they're only 1 or 2 wins out of the 8. It's possible for the Titans to make it. Definitely possible. Then Blake Laurie, final team gun. Laurie, if he goes somewhere else next year and gets the minutes, I actually quite like him as a buy for round 1 next year. Best cash out. I don't know. Who's the best cat? I'll look at it in cheapies. So when we do buy, hold, sell, I always have a list that includes a couple of those cheapy guys. Yeah, there's a few options there. And then, sorry, Matt, you've had 3 premierships, so you're all good. I play you in a league this week. Take it easy. I never take it easy. We're going hard. Rajan, you're gonna get wrecked. Up the Cowboys, Dogs, cash out, Burton, an option. If you like the Dogs to go on a big tear on the run home and just absolutely feast, then Burton is a big pod option. I personally prefer DCE if you're going to take a risk, but Burton is absolutely in the frame and he could score 70 for the run home if things go right. Titans will make the 8. Finns and Dragons will miss out. Ooh, big call. We got a lot of Dragons fans, a lot of Titans fans. This could be pretty feudal. Is it worth using 2 trades and only have 1 left? That's what I'm going to do this week. Yeah, I think it's close enough to the end that we can do it. Jake Tungo is a solid enough cash out as Sivo wasn't picked. Tungo scores so poorly, man. Like, Tungo's been at 20 points, 15 minutes into the game the last 2 weeks and ended up on less than that both times. So he's a really bad fantasy scorer. Now, for the Dogs, let's go through this. So Connor Tracy, Jacob Kiraz, Bronson Zeri, Stephen Crichton. We got Addo Carr, Burton, Sexton. Then Curran, Marnie, Hughes, Kickout, Preston, Mann. Bench, anything super noteworthy? Hayward, Hopboy, Morin, Hayes. All just guys are going to steal minutes in the forwards. All right, Kiraz is a great option. I'm probably not buying him necessarily, but if you've got Kiraz, keep on rolling with Kiraz. I think it was 45 points in pure base stats last week, so he's killing it. I'm not necessarily keen on the rest of the backline here. So Addo Carr, he's a great player in real life, not a fantasy guy. Stephen Crichton has those big games in him, but also has really quiet games in him too. So again, I don't view him as a big fantasy option. Burton, like we talked about, Burton is a massive pod you could go for, but I view him as 5 points worse than a lot of the other options. For the forward pack here, we got Curran, Marnie. Yeah, look, Curran's been a bit uninspiring since he got that starting role, so pretty average scores. Reed Marnie is one that hasn't been scoring great for us recently. I'm forced to hold on to him, so I was actually selling him last week before Haas got injured. I was going Marnie to Yo, and then Haas got hurt, and I went, oh, well, I got to reverse that and save that trade now. So I'm not super convinced on Marnie, but he should be fine. I view him as a 50 average for the run home. So stick with him unless you have heaps of trades and you can sell him. Kick out Preston, man, I'm not super keen on. The full forward bench just means that we could see anything there. But if you were going to go for one of them, then Preston is another pod back rower in sort of the same league as like a Jaden Sewer, where there's that big attacking upside. I'll just quickly hit these questions here too. We've got the 4-peat. Starling for money. I think it's too late. You could do it. It's very late. They should score about the same. If not, Starling a little bit better, but it's just a really late time to make the move. Got the 4-peat, got only because it's sin bits. Go Titans, suck it Bronx. Then I got Starling, but needs another hooker for backup, or just YOLO. YOLO, but keep at least one trade spare. Keep one trade spare for that. Does Carrigan get a rest or drop 60 minutes of the Broncos are out of contention? I think that it actually is a big risk that happens. Yeah, 100%. I think maybe he plays 80 minutes this week, but down the stretch, if he picks up any niggles or anything like that, then yeah, he could absolutely drop back in minutes. Trade Galvin for Olakuatu. Yeah, I don't mind that. Galvin's not a full-blown keeper for the run home and has the buy in round 26, so I'm happy to sell him. Lomax, a massive pod with those finals fixtures. You could take this chance, and he's probably a little bit behind Brian Toa in my eyes, but doesn't get a rest like Toa might. So if you like Lomax, go and get Lomax, but he's just not high on my list personally. But it's all subjective, right? We're talking about 5 weeks of footy. So if you think the Dragons go on a tear here, then take that shot 100%. That's a big thing, right? So we'll talk about players and we'll talk about, whether we want to buy them, all that sort of thing. So if we talk about Lomax versus Walsh versus all these other guys, Keeney, all that, then instead of looking at the players, if we think the players are about even in their fantasy scoring, we're talking about stories, right? So Lomax, Dragons, Walsh, Broncos, Keeney, Titans, Dragons, Broncos, Titans. Who do we think is going to go on a run for the run home? You'll look at the fixtures, have a look at the situation. Broncos are a bit depressed right now, so I probably rule out Walsh, and that means we're looking at Lomax versus Keeney. And if you think the Titans are going to go on a run and make the finals, then Keeney's that guy. If you think Dragons are going to go on a tear and make the finals instead, then Lomax is that guy, right? So you're buying those stories, and then there is a bit more nuance to it in terms of edges and all that too. But that's sort of how I try to look at these things. Because, if you're on this stream, you have a footy brain and you can analyze footy, right? So you can watch Dragons and sort of go, all right, they look good against the Storm. I think they beat the Dogs. Or you cannot say that. So that's how we break it down. Terrell May and Galvin, Ta'ola and Fogs. Yeah, this is all right. Terrell May is up and down, but I like this trade. Tigers beat Manly in round 25 at Leichhardt. Okay, yeah, I mean, they get some big wins at Leichhardt. Who's good at the edge position? I feel like I've spent half this stream talking about the edge. So we talked about Olakuatu, Sewer, Preston, Fafita, Crichton. They're all good options. And I'm hoping the Titans transition AJ to lock. Wow. No. Center, I think. Not lock. Should I use my 3 trades and go from Galvin to Ponga? Use one of them. Yeah, I like that trade 100%. For the Knights and Titans to make the 8, Dragons, Sharks, and Finns will need to miss out. Fair shout. The Sharks won't miss out. I mean, they could. They got some injuries at the wrong time of year. All right, let's keep rolling through. So into Sunday footy, the Warriors, and this is now the farewell tour for Sean Johnson. So we'll go into the Dolphins here first. For the Dolphins, we've got the Hammer, Asako, Avarillo, Farmworth, Bostock, Nicarima, Katoa. There's not super fantasy relevant guys here. I'm not keen on much of it. Probably Farmworth is the one that you could look at. But if you don't have Farmworth already, then I think there are cheaper center options that you could target. So I'm not super keen on much of this. We talked about Hamaso as well. He's very try-scoring dependent. That's the key for him. For the forward pack here, Bromwich, Plath, Tavita Pangai Jr. is back from his, I think it was a minor hammy issue. Then we got Felice Kafusi, Lemuelu, Bromwich, and on the bench we got Keeley, Nichols, Stone, and O'Sullivan. All right, cool. So Plath, I think we'll talk about him first. Super overrated right now for fantasy. Super overrated. So a couple of good scores, 100%. But he's had some big attacking plays that have boosted those scores. I like Plath as a player. I liked him at lock for my fantasy side. I thought he was going to be, a low 50s, maybe 50-ish average for the run home. At hooker, I don't like it as much. So you got a couple of big attacking plays, but there was a try that he scored last week where he got a line break and a tackle break as well. So that's like a 15-point, 14-point try. You take that off and that score drops down to a 40 flat. And then, there are a few other attacking plays there too. So if you think Max Plath is a good attacking hooker, then stick with him. But I don't view it that way as much. So if I had him, I'd stick with him. But if you don't have him, don't go buy him. I've been asked by a few people, should I go buy Max Plath? And I think it's a firm no. I don't think he's a full-blown keeper. I view him as sort of a mid-40s average for the run home. So that's what I'm thinking there. Then for the Warriors side of the ball, let's get rolling through here because, there's a few other guys there, but none are really keepers. So Warriors side of the ball, we got, and before we go to the Warriors, actually, I'll just answer a few questions because it's a good chat. Good chat coming through. What round we end with 0 trades? I'd like to do it early, probably in 2 weeks' time, something like that. Rank 434 has 11 trades remaining. He'd need a lot of things to go wrong to get there. Probably he'll get to a good rank, but I don't think he's going to win from there. It's a long way. Nakora for Ponga. Yeah, I think this is a good upgrade. I like that. And then who's a good cheap edge? 600k. Without looking at the list, probably leaning towards Liam Martin is a bit of a cheaper option. But I'm not sure who else is there around that price. I know Sewer is close-ish to that price. And Preston's around that price. And round of applause, SJ retirement. Yeah, so everyone drop an SJ in the chat. Drop an SJ in the chat to show your respect for Sean Johnson. But I'm going to drop my own little SJ in there as well. Because what a career, man. Like, that dude has done a lot. Like, he's, I just think back to the old classic Nines highlights, and he was such an evasive player. And he transformed his game when he got older and you had some injuries, and he went, all right, cool, I'm just going to become a steering 7. Still had that flash as well. Like, great player. He managed to evolve through his career. So I love Sean Johnson. He was our fantasy player of the year last year as well. So we are a bit biased towards Sean Johnson. We're big fans. But let's roll through the Warriors here. So we got CNK, Watani Lesnak, Leia Tower, Tuivasa-Sheck back to center, which is bad news for his fantasy scoring. Then Kosi, Harris Tavita, and Shawnee Johnson. Now I'll just flash up all the SJs. Here you are, guys. That's a lot of SJs. I'm just going to keep rolling with these SJs. Oh my God, so many SJs. Oh, one of you snuck in that's cheeky, a little BJ. SJ. Yeah, mate, absolutely cracking career from him. I don't know, could he go out with a bang? That's the big question. Like, could he go out with a bang and sort of tear up fantasy? And Oko, good to see him, mate. That's fair enough. If you're playing for overall and you're out of trades, it's a hard one. But head-to-head just starts now. So check out your leagues. Go to your fantasy app. Go to the league section because you'll be in comps and you'll have head-to-head matchups this week for the finals. So this is the most exciting part of the year for head-to-head. All right, let's keep... And yeah, hold Plath. Yeah, hold on to Plath, 100%. But I just view him as a bit iffy for the run home. All right, so for the Warriors here, SJ is interesting. He probably isn't an option I'd target realistically for fantasy. But if you want the narrative and you want to take a gamble, he has big upside capability. There is so much risk in this. There is tons of risk in this. But there also is that potential that for this last month of footy, he goes on a tear and, mate, scores like a bunch of points. So he has even this year scored 80 plus, and he could do it again. But it's risky, right? So your call. For the forward pack here, Fanua Blake, Egan, Barnett, Nick Hore, Capewell, and Walker. So Walker's back. Okay, I thought he had that HIA. In that case, if you have Walker, you can probably hold on to him. Out of this team, I'm probably not targeting buying too many of these players. So if you don't have Fanua Blake or Barnett, they're guys that you'd hold on to if you had them, but they have the buy in round 27. That's a really bad week to have a buy. So personally, I wouldn't be targeting any Warriors like that to buy. And Sean Johnson, it impacts him as well, but he's just a super pod. So I'm going to say no to all these, but if you have Fanua Blake, hold on to him. Barnett's obviously a hold as well. But overall, I'm not targeting too many Warriors players because that round 27 buy isn't ideal. All right, so last game, we got the Knights, and then we'll go into trade questions after this, by the way. So I'll say trade on or something like that, and we'll open up the general trade questions right after this game. But Knights and Tigers questions right now. So Knights, Kalen Ponga, Fletcher Sharp, we got Gagai, Lucas, Marzu, Gamble, and Crossland. And then in the forward pack, Safidi, Brayley, Thompson, Frizzell, Kai Pearce-Paul, and Adam Elliott. Then Cogger, Croker, Hetherington, and Jones on the bench. Okay, so the Knights should theoretically go well in this game. The Tigers have been hosting some big shootouts recently and scoring a lot of points and conceding a lot of points too. So theoretically, this should be a big game for basically 1-13 for the Knights. There is try scoring potential for all these guys. So I'm going to roll down the list here and just talk about different options. First up, Kalen Ponga. I think he's the best wing fullback to buy in fantasy right now. I think he's number one for the run home. I think over the next 5 weeks, he will be the top scoring wing fullback. Actually, guys, drop it in the comments too. Good shout, John. Ponga, score prediction. What do you have him scoring? I'm going to throw a number in. And you guys can all drop your numbers in too. I'm throwing in 87. Let's go wild. Let's go wild. I think he goes big. But drop your predictions in. But I think Ponga is just the must-have option at wing fullback. Most people will get him, I would say. That's my prediction. But he did score that 30 last week, so maybe people will get scared off it. I just think you got to go get him. Got to go get him and just hope that your league mates and your opponents in head-to-head finals don't have trades to get him. That's the key. For the rest of the back line here, I think they all have that potential to go big in this game as well. So, again, the Tigers have been leaking a lot of points. So, Fletcher Sharp and Greg Marzhew on the wings. I've got them both in my draft league where I picked them up both off the waivers a while back and stashed them. And I just reckon they should go well in this game. Should both score tries. That's my theory there. Gagai and Lucas, they can both go big as well. So, they're a good shout. And then Gamble and Crossland, I have no interest in at all. But if you were desperate, Gamble is there. Just not really super keen. Ponga score predictions, you got a 69, a 58, 64, and then it gets worse with a 46, a 48, 35, back up with a 76, a 63 from John, 56, 60 plus, a 12 with an injury. I hate that we share the same last name, Rocky. 59, and then we got Marzhew going big. Ponga, Olaquatu. I think Ponga over Olaquatu. Tyson Frizzell, you could do it. It's risky, but I don't hate it. Loiero or Martin, probably Martin over Loiero. And then Dally M early predictions. Yeah, who does everyone think's winning the Dally M? I'm probably thinking, who did I have? I did a full thing for this the other day for Jahu on Discord. I can't remember who I picked as Dally M. I actually have no memory. I mean, Jerome Hughes is in the conversation, 100%. He could be that option, but I don't know. We'll do a proper look at this close at the end. For the forward pack here, again, they're all really risky options, right? So Frizzell, you could take a gamble on. Kai Pearce-Paul scored really badly last week, but he has had games where he's looked like a good attacking threat. So if you want to keep Kai Pearce-Paul for one more week because you have injuries, I'd consider starting him in this game. I think he has the ability to pop off in this game. Can't guarantee it. He scored really badly recently, but could be a shout. Then for the Tigers here, Buller, Olamalo, we've got Fairtape, Dewey, Staines, Galvin, Caesar. We've got Atoka Mantu, Coruscant, Clemmer, Porter, Fainu, and Papali'i. Are we doing much with this? I mean, look, the round 26 bye for the Tigers is not ideal. Buller was one of the top scorers of the week last week, which is great. And actually, I'll go through the Tigers in a sec. Let's look at these Dally M picks. So who we got? Also, this is a mean prediction, Jock. 7. I can't believe you do that. Jack DeBellin. Then Jack DeBellin. Oh, that's just a fantasy question. Ben Hunt. He's always in the conversation for Dally M, isn't he? No matter what. James Tedesco has had a good year. I'll give you that. Then Brian Toe. Interesting. Edwards is a good shout. The injury might have hurt him a bit. Jerome Hughes, I think, is a great shout. Gus Crichton. I actually reckon Gus Crichton might not even win back rower of the year. I don't know. I think a few other guys could come into that. I think Hudson Young's had some big games. I think he could have a big last month of footy and steal that. Just a wild pick. Hughes, we got Teddy, and then who else we got? Hughes, another Hughes pick. Sammy Walker and Teddy again. Talau in the conversation. The GOAT, Talau, Lomax, and then captaining Ponga or Nathan Cleary. I mean, Cleary's the safer option, but you go Ponga. And Tommy Talau. Should Toho become a fullback? Oh, I don't think he's a fullback. I think he's more of a winger. But if he wanted to, I'm sure someone would give him the spot. All right, we're going to the Tigers here. So, I mean, if you've got Galvin and you're low on trades, then you can keep Galvin. But if you have heaps of trades, I view Galvin as a sell. I just think the round 26 bye, the injuries, the Tigers playing pretty averagely. I'm not sold on him. At the same time, though, I will say that Galvin this week could score well. So the Knights are a team that they can leak points. So I think he's a guy that if you have him, you start him this week. But I just don't view him as a full-time keeper for the run home. So maybe stick with him this week, see what happens. But my pick for him is probably like a high 50s number. I think he gets few attacking stats and goes well. He plays well next to Caesar as well. It's not reflected in the fantasy stats, but I just like the way he looks next to Caesar as a more mature half. For the forward pack here, it's been a bit dire recently for this forward pack. So Toa Kamanu is at a cheap price where you probably just stick with him. Coruscant is, again, you could sell him if you want to, but you probably just stick with him as well. Porter's been killing it. So if you're in a draft league and you're desperate for a back rower, I don't mind Porter at all. Semi Finu, I don't buy into the score last week. It was 60 points with 2 tries. You take those off, it's like a 35-point game, right? So not convincing from him, but he has that attacking upside. The Knights have league points before. And then Isaiah Papali'i, not a lot of upside in this play for him. So Papali'i is a guy we're going to target next year at Penrith, but for this year, I'm not keen. So I think that covers us. Now we are open to questions here. So let me know what you got. Any trade questions? I'll hit a few of those and then we'll go and record by hold sell. All right, let's have a look at this. So Ria Hargraves for Delium. That would be crazy, wouldn't it? Then Reese Walsh for Delium. Risky. Who's more of a sell if you have a lot of trades, Galvin or Marnie? Probably Marnie. I think Galvin will outscore Marnie this week, but I think Marnie will outscore Galvin on the run home. So it depends what you want to prioritize. Probably Galvin then, actually, but that's a tough one. Toe as a forward. Yeah, that could be big. I think I'll hold trades this week and look at Galvin next week. By the way, guys, this is first place that's giving you his thought process. So very cool to see. I don't mind that at all. If you can hold trades, it's a good shout. And then play Tungo, Gray, or Arpi. Probably try and loophole, but I think Tungo will score the most out of this 3. That's my prediction there. Jack DeBellin or Liero. If you're buying, I wouldn't want to buy either of those guys really. If you have to, maybe DeBellin. It's not ideal. Haas to Fogarty or Carrigan. I'm leaning towards Fogarty with Strange back in the halves. Carrigan has that bye next week, so probably Fogarty. Who to trade Haas for? Have these mids only Yo, Watson, and Sorensen. $0 in the bank and 1 trade left. You probably don't want the Warriors middle forwards, do you? 1 trade left. You can basically afford anyone. Does it have to be a middle forward? You could probably go Tarpanay is all right. Carrigan's all right. Probably Tarpanay or Carrigan. Probably the 2 shouts. We'll go through a deep analysis, by the way. So buy, hold, sell is going to have a whole section. That's just going to be, I'm going to start with it. Replacements for Haas. So it comes out 7 a.m. tomorrow, buy, hold, sell. The first group, instead of buyers, it's going to be Haas replacements. And we're just going to talk about middle forward, and then we'll go into the other positions. Because I think that's the big question I'm getting right now. Would you go Haas to Cook? I think Cook is such a good fantasy scorer, but Mamazelis is back on the bench and South Sydney are out of the finals. So I think that because he's leaving at the end of the year, they might reduce his minutes down the stretch. Kolomatangi or Tarpanay. Kolomatangi's a better scorer. Tarpanay has better job security. So which one of those do you like more is the question. I'm probably a better job security guy. I'd probably rather Tarpanay, but Kolomatangi will probably outscore him most weeks. So yeah, you just got to have a look at that and follow your heart pretty much. Galvin outscore Fogs this week, or I don't think so. I think Fogarty has a big bounce back game, but Galvin will go close. And then my trade, Haas for Grant, I'll use Watson. So Matto this week is a mid, not a hooker, or just swap Haas for Carrigan or Tarpanay and start Starling. Ooh, I'm not the biggest Grant believer, so I don't know. I was really into Grant and the narrative for the run home, but 80 points or 2 tries is just not convincing. You need a lot from him, and he probably gets a rest on the run home as well. Again, I'm probably leaning Tarpanay, maybe Carrigan, maybe Grant. Probably Tarpanay is where I'm leaning there. Tungo v Blaze. So, yeah, probably Tungo, 100%. Like, Tungo, and that matchup's good for him too, yeah. Fogs or Ponga. I think Ponga is the bigger pod and an exciting option. Then Haas, Tarpanay, Cotter, or Carrigan. Yeah, all right. Mids analysis. I'm saving all mids questions, actually. So we're going to do a mids analysis. I'm going to go into depth because right now I'm kind of just picking it off the top of my head. Let me do some analysis on this and I'll give you an answer to that one in buy, hold, sell. Who's the one must have this week? We'll go to that buy, hold, sell as well. Trade Galvin for Ponga or trade Drinkwater for Ponga. Probably Galvin and keep the wing fullback depth. Then who do I trade Loiero for? Not sure. Ben Hunt pod. That is a ravenous pod. That's a crazy pod. Should I trade Young and Haas with only 2 trades left, or just Haas? I think just Haas. Keep Young. Young will be back pretty soon. Sell Haas, and you can sell Young later if you need to. Watson or Teddy a sell? I don't think so. I'm going to hold both those guys myself. Jolliffe or Collins? These are really bad options. Neither. But yeah, I'd probably try and skip both those guys. Who's the one player we're trading for this week? We'll go through that in buy, hold, sell. No worries, Nick. Tarpanade is. Oh, watch buy, hold, sell. I'll give you more depth than that. Drinkwater has a buy, though. Yeah, around 25. So, yeah, worth showing that. But Galvin has the buy around 26. So, just up to you. Up the Eels, Tungo 27. Fair shout. All right, guys, that is me done and dusted. So, live reactions to team lists. We're going to do buy, hold, sell. I'm also going to jump on the Fantasy Fanatics podcast, so check them out on Instagram. And what else we got coming? I'll do a bit of a wing fullback analysis for you guys too. I might even do a separate video on the Haas replacements as well. But yeah, buy, hold, sell, 7 a.m. tomorrow, and a couple of other videos tomorrow too. Otherwise, follow us on Instagram. Make sure you're subscribed as well, because we're going to get to the end of the year, and then next year we'll start making videos in like February. You want to see those popping up before your league mates do, so you can win against them, right? So make sure you're subscribed, drop us a like, follow on Instagram is a big one too, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Good luck this week, and hopefully we all win our head-to-head leagues, because finals start this week. Go and check it out. You should have that set up well in your leagues as well. Good luck this week.